12 and 50 other little companies, and I'm also advisor to most of them. And like a venture capitalist, it's a portfolio. Some are hits, and most of them just die off. I'm also a mentor for this business incubator called Techstars in Boston, which runs a little business plan competition every 6 months. Gets a bunch of winners. The winners have to give up a little bit of equity in their company. In exchange, they get facilities support, IT support, and free access to all these mentors who are also angel investors. So it kind of runs like a mini business plan competition. And after 6 months, all the companies then give a presentation on the status of their company and whether they have a prototype and customers. And then the mentors have been giving them help all along, but now, then is the time for some successful companies to then raise some money from the angel investors who are mentors, and then move on to formal venture capital. So I do that quite a bit. I'll tell you a little bit about a company. My very first angel investment. It was 1994. Okay, so I had only been in business for 4 years, and Mach was profitable already, and I had a little bit of money. Been paying myself my paycheck for 3 years, and then we had a year or two of dividends. So I actually had a tiny little bit of money. A really good friend of mine, also from MIT, he went to Sloan, but he was organized PhD at Sloan, which is kind of odd. Never got it, but he left. He started his own company at MIT. And this is the IT services guy who had the little IT company who gave me a tiny little bit of contract work just to keep us in business. He had a little $2 million company that he sold, and then he had a little bit of money and became an angel investor too. So he shows up at my house one day, one of my best friends, shows up at my house, still to this day one of my best friends, shows up at my house with this strange, he's got a joystick. He says, "Warren, you got to see this thing, okay?" He grabs the joystick, and as he's playing the joystick, he's like making music. Okay, so a couple of guys in the media lab at MIT came up with this algorithm for generating music from a joystick, so that somebody who doesn't have any musical talent can actually make halfway decent sounding music. Like, I don't know. Whatever, I don't know. How much do you want? It was like $10,000 or $12,000. Not a lot of money. Like, that's my first angel investment. My friend Brad here is all excited about it. Let me throw some money in there. Threw some money in. Another couple of engineers from the MIT Media Lab. Brilliant kids, brilliant guys. Only a couple years younger than me. So anyway, I started Mach in 90, and they started this company in 1994. Okay. And we both kept going and going and going and going, and Mach was doing better and better and better. We would grow, we had profits, and it was doing really well. And their company was constantly living hand to mouth. It wasn't making any money. They weren't growing. They were stuck at 20 and 22 people, and never looked like they would ever make anything of themselves. So Mach went off and did very well, and these guys were just barely surviving. Okay, never made any money. They didn't have to raise any more money though, which was good. It wound up being good in the end. So I sold Mach in 2006, and now I started looking for tax write-offs, okay, to offset my gains from the sale of Mach. So I started looking through everything I had. I said, oh, this little company I invested in 96, 10 years ago, 94, 12 years ago. Maybe they died already. I hadn't heard that they went under. Maybe I can write off a little $12,000 investment. There'll be a little tax. So I pick up the phone. I call one of my other friends, another investor, say, "Hey, can I write this off yet? I really need the tax write-off." And the guy goes, I think you better hang on there, Warren. I think they're actually there's something brewing. They may get acquired. I'm like, oh come on. They've been in business for 12 years. They've never made a dime of money. They're still only 22 people. What can I possibly get out of this? What am I going to get? I said, my exact words, what am I going to get, dinner out of this? He's like, no, I think you actually will get more than a dinner out of this. So I'm like, okay. So it turns out the name of this company is Harmonix. I don't know if you've ever heard of Harmonix. They made this thing called Guitar Hero, rock band. Okay? So they got bought. They were 4 years younger than Mach. They got bought for $175 million. And then they got an earn-out of an equal amount a year later. Okay, and we're arguing over the third earn-out now, which is supposed to be about the same size. Okay, so that was an astonishing, considering they were, smaller than us, never made money, never successful, yet, they happened to hit on something And it wasn't even related to the whole joystick music thing. They threw it out because it was too complicated for people to understand that, oh, I can make music with a joystick. Instead, they just have that guitar thing where you're just slapping it and hitting it and following, lights and lines going down the screen. But that seems to be what people wanted, and they magically hit on this, bizarre marketplace. So that was my first angel investment, okay? Now, after that, of course, I was all psyched about angel investment. The next 8 companies were all losers. Which is fine, because the first winner paid for those 8 losers. You have to have kind of portfolio mentality. So I'm becoming a little more stringent on what I invest in these days. I'm in a couple of great things that one company I'm invested in now, which I think is really gonna do well. Anybody ever see the movie Minority Report? Tom Cruise. You remember the scene where he's in front of that hand gesture operated computer? Well, another friend of mine from MIT is a guy named John Unterkofler, another brilliant guy. He's off the charts. He started a company to commercialize that. He was the guy who designed the system for the movie for Spielberg and for Tom Cruise. And a couple. G-Speak. Yeah, that's right. Right. The company's called Oblong. The product is called G-Speak. And they're changing the way that people interact with computers. Maybe a little bit before its time, not quite sure. But they have a bunch of military contracts. They're already profitable. That one I think is going to go very, very well. And another one called Organic Motion, which I'm telling you the couple of highlights. I'm not going to tell you about the other 8 or 9 losers or whatever that's that I'm looking for one that I can write them off my taxes. But Organic Motion is a company in New York City that makes a markerless motion system, motion tracker. If those of you who are familiar with motion tracking for video game industry or sports or anything like that, most motion tracking systems you have to wear this suit with little spots all over it so that the cameras can pick up where your arms and legs are. Organic Motion has a camera-based technology where you don't have to wear a special suit. So anybody's walking through any environment can have their body completely digitized down to the fingers. So you can take that person's avatar, or whatever, put it in a virtual environment, or do analysis on somebody's walking pattern or golf swing, or for the military, it's for dismounted infantry simulation when you want to bring a person into a virtual environment for simulator-based training where you have a mixed reality. You have real people walking around rooms with fake artificial vehicles. I'm an advisor to them because we're in the same business space. Those two I think will do very well. Look, with angel investing, you kind of have to have a little bit of a portfolio attitude, not be too upset when 8 out of 10 of your investments go under.
An extension to a third question maybe. When you say you invest in 8 companies or more than that, for sure it's not all friends, it's not all people you naturally trust when you start, and I believe you can't buy always more than 50% of a company. So how do you secure your interest if you have, let's say, a small portion of a company? I mean, that people don't rip you off, they pay themselves salaries. I mean, there are a million ways of being, insincere and
Yeah, there's a lot of trust involved. Turns out a lot of the deals I invest in now are with that same guy who showed up with a joystick in my house. He's the biggest venture capitalist in Colorado right now. In 2007, he had about $2 billion worth of exits. Okay, and when he picks up the phone and says, "Warren, I think you'll be interested in this thing," I'm interested. I'm pretty interested. So there's a lot of trust involved, and he certainly knows how to pick teams better than I and instill the concept of you come back to the well, you come back to me for money because you blew it. Okay, I'm going to take you to the cleaners. Okay, in round 1 of a venture capital deal, you might lose 20 or 30% of your company. Round 2, okay, you may lose another 20 or 30%, and now all of a sudden you're on the cusp of not having control of your own company. You have to come back to me round 3, okay, then you get crammed down, and all of a sudden you're down to 5%. So knowing how to manage entrepreneurs like that is I don't have that talent. I mean, maybe I do. If I were on the board, I'm on the board of one company, but that guy knows better than I how to run a company. He's another old friend of mine. Another guy who invested in harmonics. He's actually the guy I made a phone call to. He's now